What's going on? It's Mustafa Ali. It's loud as hell in here, but you should be listening to Card Subject to Change.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Of course, I am never wrong, Nick Bull. Joining me is my tag team partner. We're co-champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. Along for another ride, another episode here of the Card Subject to Change is my good buddy, tag team partner, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
Man, I am feeling really good. I've been looking forward to this episode for a while since this gentleman reached out to me. I've watched some of his matches online. He is quite the unique character, and I'm anxious to hear his story. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. He is known as the Barker of the Bazaar. I'm going to bring him in right now. Please welcome our guest, Rika Wildlee. Rika, how are you today?
Doing amazing. Thank you so much for finally having me on your podcast. I've been looking forward to this for months, and I am so blessed to be gracing your screens today. So thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. I know we've been talking for a couple of months, and we were backed up a bit, so excited to have you on and hear your story. And I know Nick is itching to ask the question he asks everybody, so I'm going to let him start the show. Nick.
Rika, I ask everybody the same question. That's a first-time guest.
Go for it.
Why professional wrestling? What is it for you that has sucked you into this thing that we love as pro wrestling? What was it that got you hooked, or what is it that got you into pro wrestling?
Well, just like anyone that grows over time, I got drew in when I was 8 years old. Just like any other kid, the characters and just the storylines and things. And that's what really drew me in initially. But what has kept me involved all of these years is there's not many businesses, or there's not many sports even. 99% of what we call sports, whether it be baseball, football, basketball, whatever, is all about being the best, being the top guy. And just as wrestling is that, in all honesty, it's a business of paying it forward. In basketball, you're out for number one. You're out for your team and yourself to be the best you can be and make yourself as big as possible. But in wrestling, the only thing that you are meant to do is build yourself up big enough so when the next person comes along and beats you for whatever belt or title or prestige of character, that you pay it forward and it means something. No one is meant to do this forever. No one is meant to hold that place forever. It is all about a business of paying it forward. And that is what has drew me and kept me involved all these years. Is I want to be able to inspire and push others to do what I'm doing now.
That is the one of the best answers I think we've heard, Nick. Am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got a different reason. That's a real good reason. I mean, when you say pay it forward like you do, and it kind of honors the time-honored tradition of what wrestling or wrestlers have done before you.
That's right, man. And that's so kind of, I know this question is going to come up, but that's kind of the whole basis of me doing the carnival gimmick. That's where wrestling started. It was an attraction. It was a sideshow attraction. The entertainment value that we know now as professional sports entertainment wrestling, the quote-unquote predetermined outcomes and things like that, all of that started at the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my little way of honoring that and paying it back to where it originated. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I love that. So talk about, you got into the business. Who are your influences? Obviously there's got to be some unique influences for you, but who did you gravitate towards when you first started watching and now as you are actually in the ring?
well, when I started watching, it was around 95, 96 era, just as the Attitude was starting to come out and do its thing, and then the Monday Night Wars and all that good stuff. But initially, it was The Rock and Jeff Hardy and Eddie Guerrero. I was one of the flip floppers. I used to watch a little WCW, a little WWE, you know what I mean, like back and forth, or WWF at the time.
Sure.
I love the lucha style because I'm a small guy. I'm not really that big of a man, and it just, if they can do it, I can do it. That's the inspiration. They inspire smaller guys like myself to do that lucha style. Then I seen Jeff Hardy with his style doing what he does with the crazy acrobatic moves and things, and The Rock with his overall charisma, just the gift of gab. Just being able to just ramble and ramble and ramble and never slack up. Always on top of his game when it comes to cut downs and, making somebody have to stay on their toes as far as the promo goes. That is what initially drew me to professional wrestling and got me involved to where I started watching weekly and keeping up with story and stuff like that. And it just never went away.
You bring up a guy like The Rock, who is just undeniable, not only, as an entertainer, but what he has done on the microphone in the business. You kind of draw from that since you're the barker of the bazaar. You got to be good with words. You got to be able to connect with the crowd. You got to kind of be loud and have this look at me attitude. And the Rock definitely was that.
That's very true. See, before I got into the in-ring perspective of professional wrestling, I was doing it for like 2 years prior to this. I've been in altogether almost 6 years. I've been in pro wrestling in-ring stuff for about 4, but for 2 years prior, I was doing the Rika character online, just cutting promos against other people. We were doing promo matches. Okay, so they would have a character, I would have a character, and we would just basically talk trash about each other and have a couple people judge the match, and whoever talked the better trash won, whatever. So by the time I actually got in the ring, the part of learning how to promo, feeling comfortable in front of the screen, talking, being able to just think on your toes and not fumble over your words and really involve your character with them through visual and verbal things was already there. I'd already built that. I'd already got comfortable doing that, which is, I know, as I've learned over time, is a lot of people's hardest thing to do as far as wrestling. Anybody can learn how to fall down, but learning how to feel comfortable in your gimmick 100% to where if you are 100% behind it and you believe it, you leave the fans no choice, not to. Getting comfortable in front of the mic or on the mic, in front of the screen, in front of the fans to where you don't end up freezing up. That's one of the biggest hurdles in professional wrestling.
Absolutely. You talk about starting off doing promos online. Talk about the evolution and how Rika came into being.
Well, okay, so I've always been into the kind of clown-ish vibe, just the lights, the colorful thing, but I never really even saw myself pursuing, being able to actually go and professionally wrestle, let alone being able to pursue a gimmick such as what I'm doing now. But over time, I initially wanted to do my actual middle name is Lee. So I was going to do Rika the Wild Card Lee. But Rika come from Ricochet, which is my D&D character I've had since I was like 14. So, okay, Rika come from that. And I was going to be Rika the Wild Card Lee, but I got to do, before I started actually building on the character, I got to doing some searching online and, gimmicks and what's been done and what hasn't. And there's about a bazillion wild cards. Every other company has a wild card. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, that's been done 1,000 times over. Scratch that. And it just ended up becoming Rika Wildlee. That's how that happened.
What we're here with Rika Wildlee on the Card Subject to Change podcast. Rika, what are the fans' first reaction when they have never seen you before and you come out, you're doing your thing? What is their reaction to you?
You know, it's funny you asked that because I'm one of those kind of people that I think in depth. I'm a very, I think of every angle when it comes to building my connection with the crowd. Okay. Such as when, most people, when they get introduced, they're from whatever town they want to be from, this, that, and the other. Sure. Me, I'm from your town because that's what a carnival does. It goes from town to town to town to town to town. But so Rika Wildlee is always from your town, which before I even step through the curtain, they may never see me, have never seen me before. They don't know the lights. They don't know the mask. They don't know anything. But immediately when they go from your town, Rika Wildlee, they're already on the hook. Because now they're going, wait a minute, he's from here. Do I know him?
We don't know this guy, do we?
Right. And I step through the curtain and I've got the lights and I've got the mask. And now they're just as much intrigued with that because they're looking at my earrings. They're looking at my long hair. They're looking at my walk. They're going, wait a minute, is this a guy that works for Circle K? Did I go to school with this dude? Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man. And I've already got him on the hook before I even get in the ring. You know what I mean? And that's the draw. They don't know what to think of the character at first because it does come off kind of odd, but that is what wrestling is about. Something that stands out amongst the crowd. And that is why I have built what I've built and made the character that I've made and pursued doing that, even though my coach initially told me it would never get over and people would not enjoy it. And I'm like, hey, for each their own, man. How can you say that before I even give it a chance?
Right. And especially wrestling where so many different odd, eye-catching things have come along and the people have clamped onto it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't know until you try. So how long did it take for your character, for Rika, to get to where Rika wanted to be with the character?
I'm still not there.
Oh, I like that answer.
I'm growing every day, man. I'm learning something new every day. I'm taking bits and pieces from every single person I talk to. I'm going to learn something from you guys tonight. It's all a experience, and to be honest, until the day you decide to hang up your boots, you're still never done growing. The mind never rests when it comes to building a gimmick or building a, following or whatever the case may be in the wrestling business. The mind never sleeps, and you never quit learning. And if you ever get to a point to where you think you know it all, then you might as well quit.
Right.
Because there's always
Very
somebody
true.
to teach you something somewhere. Always.
And I love that because I look at, for me, I'm a big Chris Jericho fan. And he's one of the people that I have always admired for his ability to evolve and change as the times go along.
Agreed.
And I see a lot of that in you for sure because of what you just said. You've always got to be growing and evolving. Otherwise you're just stagnant.
Right.
And that can kill somebody. Not literally, but it can kill a character for sure.
Right. It could. It could kill a character before it actually has the chance to show its true potential. But when you go to work some of the same companies over and over and you get that initial attraction, that initial pop when you walk through the curtain and they see you for the first time, and now they know who you are. They know what you're about. They know your moveset. They know your charisma. They know it all, and you have to give them something because they're going to leave. They're going to go and tell their friends. They're going to bring their friends next time. And you got to be able to constantly grow enough to where you're giving the original fans that saw you the first time the draw that they want, but you're also giving the new fans that they brought with them the same exact experience that the first ones experienced the first time. You got to always be on your toes, growing, And that's why I love it so much because it never stops, man. It never stops.
Rick, I want to ask you, what made you decide to get into this world of professional wrestling? What was the determining factor? How did you get your start? And, take us back to those days and the infancy of you in the business.
Well, here's the deal. I've always wanted to be, like I said, I've been into wrestling since I was 8 years old. It's literally the only where most kids were like, I want to be a police officer, or a fireman, or whatever. I was like, pro wrestling. That's me. That's where I want to go. That's what I want to do. And even as growing up through my early teens, my late teens, all this kind of stuff, I had so many people tell me it was stupid, childish, grow up. I'm from a small town in Louisiana, and that kind of stuff just does not happen here. You either work on an oil rig or in the woods logging or some crazy something like that, or offshore making money where you're never at home. But people don't go from here and become a professional wrestler. That's just really far-fetched. And my response to that growing up was, I can't live for you. You can't live for me. What I may be into, you may not be. And that's what makes the world beautiful. Who are you to tell me that I can't do something that in my heart, I'm passionate about? With drive, persistence, and passion, you can do anything you want to. That's it. And I ended up in having a kid at 17 years old. I had my son at 17, and wrestling got kind of put on the back burner for a good little while. As it should have. Daddy stuff come first. Being a father come first, and that's how that happened. But come 2020, when COVID hit and all of that, I was actually on my honeymoon with my wife, and we were in Cancun, Mexico, and we're sitting on the balcony and we're feeding the birds. It's just, real romantic setting, whatever. And all of a sudden I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I just told my wife about 20 minutes before that I asked her if she wanted to move to Texas to try to go join Rhodes Wrestling Academy, because Dustin had just started his stuff going with Rhodes Wrestling Academy. And I was like, what do you think about moving to Houston? And I'm 30 at this point. I'm like, what do you think about actually let me go try this to see if I can do something with it? And she was like, nah, I don't know. I really don't want to move to Texas. And literally about 30 minutes later, two of my buddies messaged me from my town, messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, did you know that there was a wrestling school that just opened up about 30 minutes away from where you live? I was like, dude, no. I said, if there was a wrestling school, I'm like the biggest wrestling fan around here, or one of them. If there was a wrestling school that opened up, I would know. I'd be the first guy to know about it. But come to find out, yeah, man, they had just opened it up because Dapper Dan, he's a Mid-South and global legend. He's traveled all over the world wrestling. He was trained by Ivan Putski. He's done a bunch of traveling, and after he got out of wrestling in the early 2000s, he opened a motorcycle shop in Alexandria, a little ways from where I'm from. And COVID hit, and the business kind of slacked up, and all that during 2020. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to open my wrestling school back up, see how I can do that, see if I can make some money at that. And me and four other awesome guys were the first class to go through that wrestling school, the United Wrestling Entertainment Academy in Central Louisiana.
Let's talk about your training and going to that school. And you show up on day one. What are your expectations, and what was the reality? You're going to wrestling school 30 minutes from your home, which is a lot easier than moving to Texas to go to wrestling school. Right. So talk about the convenience of having a wrestling school 30 minutes away and what it was like. Well,
to be honest, I've bumped in a ring before when I was younger, like an actual ring. I've done that before, and I knew how sore it had made my body then, and I was young and spry and good to go. I was kind of nervous. I'm not gonna lie, to be like talking to my wife and talking to my dad, and my mom and stuff, and I'm like, what 30-year-old just wakes up and goes, you know what? I want to start getting beat up for a living. Like, that's like, But after going to the class and meeting the other guys, and there was one other guy that was in there that I knew personally. We went to high school together, Logan Wade. And so we got to click up, we got to talking and all that. And I showed up day one with the mask. I done in my entire training school with this mask on.
Nice.
I told my coach from day one, this is the gimmick. This is what I'm doing. I know how good it got over in the promo world. So I'm going to try to push that onto the pro wrestling world and in-ring stuff. And from that point on, he was like, that's stupid. Let it go. It's not going to work. Take the mask off. And I'm like, hey, dude, I show up every day. I don't think he actually saw my face till we graduated. But
you mentioned earlier that the same thing you just brought up is that your coach never thought it would work. What's he saying to you now that it is working?
He's proud, man. We've had our bumps in the road. We butted heads time and time again, for different things. And that's all part of, student to mentor, vibe, I guess. You butt heads. He's like a dad to me. He's a very, very great man. He bend over backwards to help you at any turn, give you the shirt off his back if you asked for it. And he has shown me more about this business that I ever thought I could learn, because, watching it all these years on TV and seeing stuff like that, I've always been a fan, and thinking that I've done my research and I know what the business has to offer. I knew nothing. So getting in there and having somebody that has his resume teach me the ways of even so much as the way to carry yourself in a locker room, not just in-ring things, but the way to present yourself as a professional. He's very old school when it comes to that. You pay your dues, after your show. For the first while, you stay around, you help break down the ring, you help put out tickets, whatever is asked of you, you help do, because that's the only way the business is going to grow. It's all part of the journey. It's all part of the story as we become veterans later on in life, and have our own story to tell. It's all part of that. And if you think you're above paying your dues, this is probably not the business for you.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, that seems like a good place here. We have to take our obligatory break. And I always hate stopping the momentum, but that seems like the perfect place to pause, pay our dues to our fellow network brethren, and on the other side of the break, we'll have our weekly moment of focus. But we'll be right back after this.
All right.
For frequency's sake, has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Card Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance, looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. We are Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We are here with the Barker of the Bazaar, Rika Wildlee. We will get back to our conversation with Rika here very shortly. But of course, it comes to the time of the week when it's time to recalibrate, clear your mind for a brief moment of focus.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And this week, the Card Subject to Change podcast, you have the barker of the bizarre in studio. So, let me see if I can change my background to match this aesthetic. Much better. But let's get to our moment of focus. This week, let's all focus on one thing: finding and seeking a little extra enjoyment. Don't be afraid to give yourself that little extra thing that'll really put that pep in your step. Make your day better than what it should have been. Take control and do something that you haven't done in a long time, because you never know what a chain reaction of a little extra enjoyment will do for your life. This, my friends, has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
JT Energy, always finding a great way to tie things in with what we're doing here. We are here with Rika Wildlee, Louisiana-based wrestler. He is talking all things wrestling with us. I got to ask, Rika, you've been all over the South, Texas, Arkansas. You've also even come up to Ohio. Other than your home promotion, that's too easy. Do you have a favorite place you like to go, and why is it your favorite place to go there?
Well, okay, so I went and worked JCW for Insane Clown Posse a few years back, and that alone has been a highlight of my career. And I know JCW is finally getting back on their feet as far as running shows regularly, and to go out and perform for them would be awesome. So you know, I'm working on getting that in the works. But my home promotion is awesome because I get to have all the people that told me I would never do it come out to the shows and buy my merch and tell me how proud they are of me. That's kind of a bittersweet thing, but I'm beyond blessed to have a home promotion here where I don't have to drive 50 hours elsewhere to go do stuff, but I don't really have one particular company that I'm just driving to work for. I'm just enjoying the ride every place I get to go, and every fan and every person I get to meet, whether it's a new person or a veteran or whoever. I'm just enjoying the ride, man.
Absolutely. Speaking of, meeting new people, venturing out, is there, can you talk about some of your favorite matches that you've been a part of and why they mean so much to you?
Well, there's three that come to mind, and I brought up JCW. That's the biggest match I've ever been in, which was a 30-man battle royal at the Gathering of the Juggalos in Ohio. In front of like 16, 17,000 people. It was insane. Then I've got me versus the Gatekeeper, which is honestly, I've known Gatekeeper for 20 plus years, and he came and graduated from the same school I did. And when he showed up, he had just beat stage 4 Hopkins lymphoma twice.
Ooh.
Okay, cancer. And he joined as a referee, still doing his chemo. And as he refereed a show or two, whatever, he got the itch to get in the ring and actually start training to be a wrestler. And I got to be his first match. It was a Singapore cane match in Marshall, Texas. And just because of the history we have outside of the ring, that match will always mean more to me than I could ever explain, just because this is a dream me and him had as children. I've got VHS tapes of us pretending this when we were 10 years old,
Sure.
And to be able to do that in front of an actual crowd and perform and have us go head to head in a real deal match in a real setting. It was just seemed like one of those conclusions to full circle. I don't know. It just
and a Singapore cane match on top of it.
yeah. It was. That's something that we've always wanted to do. Just a weapons match, but it ended up being just Singapore canes. But
Sure.
when he decided he wanted to get in the ring and all of that, and finally had his body in good enough shape that he could actually start taking bumps and hitting the ropes and things, we were like, hey, we've got to do something. Like I've got to be your first match. Like I'm not even giving you a choice. It's got to happen. But I am super proud of that match. And the third one is the recent cage match I had at Battle Zone Championship Wrestling with against Michael Parrish. That is the biggest bump I've ever taken. I done a swanton off the top of the cage onto Michael Parrish. And very, very much a childhood highlight that I've always wanted to do. And it's a box that I just needed to check off. So, yeah.
We're talking here with Rika Wildlee on the Card Subject to Change podcast. We like to do fancy booking here. We always like to plug ourselves into something good or plug our guests into something good. What storyline, past or present, would you, Rika Wildlee, flourish in, plug yourself into, and be a part of that storyline and it would thrive?
Let's see. As much as I would say 90% of people would look at me and go, oh, the oddities. Of course that would work. No. I'm a BWO fan.
Okay.
Okay.
I see where this. I can
I'm
get
a
behind
Blue
that.
Meanie guy. I'm a Stevie Richard guy, man.
Oh, I like, dude. In ECW, of course, right?
Oh, yeah. BWO, bro.
I could see. Oh, yes, man. You would maybe have a blue and white mask, but I mean, yeah.
Hey, I could make it happen. It happen.
I like that answer. You and the BWO and ECW, man. I'm for it.
Right. I think that would be awesome.
I could see it, man. I could so see it too. That's a good answer.
I love it. So let's continue down the rabbit hole of fantasy booking. Is there someone past or present that you would love to step in the ring with and have a match?
Not only because I think it would be an amazing match, not only because I would learn with every single step, but to just have the honor and privilege of stepping in the ring and behind the curtain and talking to this man personally and picking his brain, I would be a better man and person for it, and that's Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the one. In my opinion, I know everybody's got their own, perfect style wrestler and all of this, and then everybody's got their flaws in one way, shape, or form. But in my opinion, he's the GOAT, man. There's nothing he couldn't do. Yeah, he had his demons, but who doesn't? I believe.
No, absolutely.
I believe that there's things in this business that only people that have been down the path like Eddie have experienced, and to have had the chance while he was alive to step in the ring with him, perform with him, pick his brain, and just potentially gain some of the knowledge from his experiences would be life-changing, life-altering. You know what I mean? So that's forever going to be my number one fantasy, if I could book him.
So let me ask you this. It sounds like Eddie Guerrero means a lot to you. Do you incorporate anything of Eddie Guerrero into yourself when you're in the ring or when you're cutting promos, anything like that?
I do. I involve I involve the fans with every single move I make, just like Eddie did. There wasn't a spot in wrestling where they wasn't involved. There wasn't a move he done where the fans wasn't right on the edge of their seat, following and watching and understanding and visualizing every single thing he said and done and move he made, from the three suplexes, from the three amigos, to the setting in the corner, laying across the top rope in the corner, to the chair spot where he throws the chair and then lays down, all of that kind of stuff. He is the definition of he's got amazing groundwork. He's got amazing athletic ability as far as lucha style goes. I'm telling you, charisma, athletic ability, ground game, promo ability. The man had it all.
I can't say I disagree with you at all. I think that's fantastic. I know he is on my list of one of my all-time favorite matches, going back to Halloween Havoc '97 with Ray.
Right, that's the one. That purple suit Ray. That's the one.
Yes.
That's the one.
And of course, you mentioned the throwing the chair and then laying down. That is brilliant and masterful heel work, and not just heel work. He got the crowd into it.
That's what I
loved
said
when he did it.
Okay, on to what I'm doing now. They see my character, and even though it is over the top bright, every promoter that I come across, they always ask the same question: are you face or heel? Or are you a baby or are you heel? And I'm like, I'm a baby. I'm face. I'm a good guy. Even though I look like I'm a good guy. Why? Because I've tried. I've had promoters push me as heel. I really have. And I could go out there and I could literally kick a baby and they would still cheer.
You and Snitsky both.
It's one of those things that I don't know if it's the lights. I don't know if it's the charisma. I don't know. I look at it like watching Eddie and being inspired from Eddie over the time. I've kind of took on some of that, like he rubbed off on me a little bit, and I don't like being heel. I like involving the crowd, but I love the way he played his opponent versus the crowd. He was a heel, but the crowd was on his side, so it made the entire crowd cheer the heel. It flipped the whole match on his head.
You're absolutely right. Now, CZ may have asked you this while I was out of the room there temporarily. What's your favorite Guerrero match?
Favorite Guerrero? I gotta say, Halloween Havoc '96. Not that he didn't have many. Like, I love him and RVD in the ladder match. Love that one. Okay, yeah. Him and RVD in the ladder match. Him and Ray in the Dominique custody match. I love that one too, just on storyline purposes.
Sure.
Pretty much anything with him and Ray was gold. Just top to bottom, start to finish, gold. And there wasn't anybody, new or old, that Eddie couldn't make look like $1 million. And trust me, WWE tried. They threw him some matches. You're like, how is that gonna work? But by the time it's over, you're like, you know what? I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. And it's because he knew how to work his opponent. He knew how to make himself shine. He knew how to make the crowd stand on the edge of their seat, and he knew how to make his opponent look bigger than life, regardless of size or experience.
I can't agree with you more. Like, he could wrestle any style.
Right.
Regardless of who he's in there with. He's in there with Brock Lesnar, and it's believable.
Yeah, thank you.
He's in there flying around with Rey Mysterio, and it's believable.
That's why he's the GOAT, man. In my opinion, in my own personal opinion, he's the GOAT. Like,
I love that. I love you saying that, because I think he's so often overlooked. Like, I wish he was still here with us. And the thing I wish he was still here is, could you imagine him and Dom as a tag team? Oh my God, it'd be great. And then after a while, you would get the Dom and Eddie feud. But my goodness, them as a tag team, would be
The stuff they could have built with
Yes.
Dom being grown now, and him and Ray doing the tag team thing, and Eddie turning Dom heel, being the one to turn Dom heel.
Yes.
Oh man, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
that'd be great. That'd be
Oh,
great.
man.
Possibilities are endless, man. And that's selfishly when he, you know, whenever his name comes up anymore, and you know how great of a wrestler he was, and this match and that match, all I can think about is pairing him with Dom and how great that would have been.
It'd have been magic, man.
I know.
I mean, there's no, and see, the thing is like, I know it's been compared before, but like Rhea and Dom, when they were doing the, you know, their couples thing and all of that, and then you got Eddie and China from back in the day. I mean, it's like looking in a mirror, man.
I know. It was good. It was so good. I felt Rhea and Dom did it justice.
Well, yeah, because they flipped it on its head, you know.
It's
back in the
tough to
day.
touch China and Eddie. It really is, but they did it justice. They did an excellent job with it.
They did, and I mean, they should be proud with the way they carried that storyline onto the faction and all of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't just I'm all into you and that kind of stuff. It was chemistry that you could rightly see on screen. You know,
I'm glad you mentioned that word chemistry, because when I think back to Eddie Guerrero, obviously him and Ray had a lot of chemistry, just like Nick and I do here on the show. But Eddie seemed to have good chemistry with anyone he stepped in the ring with. I can't think of a bad match that he's ever had.
That's what I'm saying, man. There's a difference. There's a huge difference, and I take this to heart with everything that I do. There's a huge difference in being a wrestler and being a performer. Anyone can learn to wrestle. Wrestling is an art, don't get me wrong, but anybody can learn to wrestle. But there's not a lot of people who can learn to perform. You can take somebody that's a 3 out of 10 and they're not confident in themselves and they're already nervous by the time they get through the curtain, and you put them in there with somebody like Eddie, who is a 12, and you could put him in a blindfold and he could still carry a match, and he will make that 3 look like a 12. Just on his ability to sell, his ability to put you over and, you know, launch your career forward and even build confidence in yourself. By the time you have your next match, you're like, I went against Eddie and that match was beautiful. That match was, oh my Lord, that was great. You know, and that's what he was about. And that's what I was talking about when we first got on. Eddie is the prime example of taking a veteran and paying it forward.
Yes.
That's the vibe, man. That's what it's about.
You know, we've done some fantasy booking. We've talked about your journey so far through professional wrestling. I would feel bad if I didn't ask you this. Where do you see yourself 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What is the future for Rika Wildlee?
I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you, and I've told a lot of different people this. I've had promoters, I've had bookers, I've had scouts, I've had stuff, and they all ask me, do you see yourself in WWE? Do you see yourself in AEW? Do you see yourself here, there, and yonder? And honestly, my ultimate goal isn't to go to the big leagues. My ultimate goal is to build myself credible enough, have enough matches under my belt, and enough prestige on my name that one day I can open my own wrestling school to pay it forward to the next generation of people with the same passion as me. That's what I want to do.
That answer gave me chills. I'm just going to say that is fantastic.
Absolutely. You've been talking about paying it forward, and that's probably the biggest way a wrestler can pay it forward nowadays, right? If they have that opportunity to be able to open a school and to put their name on it and to bring these youngsters or people of all ages in and to teach them I absolutely could see that. That's cool, man. I like that.
I mean, it would be awesome to work for, to at least have even a dark match on WWE just to have it on the resume. But I want to be, I craved what I'm doing now since I was 8 years old. and I can't put it any other way than I knew in my heart what I wanted, what I needed. There was an itch that I just could not scratch because it was out of my reach for years and years and years. And for Dapper Dan to have opened the school and opened that door for me and gave me that opportunity, and gave me the chance to pursue and finally scratch the itch that's, been driving me crazy for all these years. Why wouldn't I want to do the same for someone else who has that same passion in their heart?
No, absolutely. I love that answer. I want to circle back. You're talking about having that possible dark match on your resume, having that not necessarily going into AEW, WWE. Are there any promotions that you're watching currently that you would love to be a part of, even if it's just a one-off?
I would like to go
outside of the big leagues.
Well, I would like to go work NWA, honestly, just because of the value and the veteran status, in my opinion, that NWA holds. There has not been one person in the past 50, 60 years that has come through those doors of NWA that hasn't meant something to the company. And even though it did take a break for a little while, it wasn't doing as much as it used to, but you got people like Flair and Dusty Rhodes and the list goes on and on and on. And to be able to perform in the same setting as those type of guys that opened the business that we know and love as pro wrestling now and made it what it is before we even understood the sports entertainment side of it. I would love to be on that stage at least once, to feel that same energy they did.
That's excellent.
Yes. Rika, where can we see you or find you wrestling in the upcoming weeks?
This upcoming weekend, I am going to be in Silsbee, Texas, with SWF, which is Sadistic Wrestling Federation, and I want to say the next event that I have is October. I think I got one in early October. I can't think of the name of it, but October 18th, I'll be in Memphis with Committed to Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then October 19th, I'll be in Mendenhall, Mississippi in Battle Zone Championship Wrestling. So, within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing some moving and doing some jumping around state to state and showing the folks how to embrace the bizarre. You know what I mean? So,
for sure.
I know.
Just like we've embraced the bizarre here. I'm telling you, like CZ and I were looking forward to this. We're like,
dude,
and I have no idea how this guy's going to be when he comes on here. This is something new for us, and I loved it, dude. I've absolutely had a great time. I love your message of paying it forward, and dude, I love your commitment to the gimmick, man. You're at a carnival right now. It looks like.
Yeah, and my wife isn't too much of a fan with the bright lights flashing all the time.
I love it, man. I love it.
but yeah, man. This has been an amazing journey so far, and like I said earlier, you never quit learning, you never quit making experiences, and enjoying yourself along the ride. And to be honest, what are we at the end of our days? Not just at the end of our career, but at the end of our lives. What are we but a story? And this is a story that I'm writing each and every day for my kids, grandkids, and other folks to talk about once I'm long gone. And
right,
that's what I'm about, man. How do you become immortal? By leaving a story worth telling, right?
For sure.
That's right.
Speaking of stories worth telling, Rika, you have sent me a handful of your stuff. Where can people find you online if they want to watch your matches, if they want to follow you? Talk about your social media presence.
Okay. Rika Wildlee on YouTube. You can just search Rika Wildlee. Matter of fact, I done this the other day and I hadn't, and I don't know why I hadn't before, but I am the only Rika Wildlee in existence. So Google my name and everything will pop up. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, All of it. All of it. I've got all the social medias. I'm constantly posting on there. TikTok. I'm constantly posting out videos and putting out clips and highlights, and I do all my own editing. I've done all my own gear. The only thing I haven't done of my own gear is my mask and my boots, but everything else I have handmade myself. And I did that so I could go into locker rooms and nobody has stuff like mine. You know, if you're trying to stand out in a business where everything's been done 100 times, you have to kind of start customizing your own to fit your own presence. You know what I mean?
I just put I just put your name in here to Instagram, and you're absolutely right. If you want to see some very cool videos, awesome entrances, your gear looks awesome, dude. And I like that you make your own gear. That is so cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We have a listener here that says, waiting for the day you come to Missouri for a show so I can go see your talent in person. So that's pretty cool.
Hey, actually, I was in Leachville, Arkansas yesterday and drove through Missouri. Like somehow, some way, we made a wrong turn, and I was in Missouri for a split second, and I was like, "How did we get here?" But yeah, I'm gonna make my way to Missouri before long. You know, the reason I've done what I've done this year, just this year, 2024, I've worked 22 different companies. I've been to 8 different states. If I wrestle all my matches throughout December, I will have wrestled 48 matches this year. 44 weekends throughout this year. I've traveled and wrestled, and I've done that at a loss financially only because I am building the resume and I'm building the status of my name and my work and my talent to where come 2025, I can start reaching out further, being paid a little bit more, and they can't deny that my work isn't there. You know?
For sure. Absolutely.
No business that has ever tried prospering ever has made money at first, has come out the gate making money. So you take a loss so you can build that prestige on your gimmick, your business, or whatever it may be, so that eventually when it comes time for people to actually start pursuing what you got going on, you have value to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what 2025 holds for me. That's what 2025 holds for me. I'm going to start going to different states. I'm going to start reaching out. Matter of fact, I've just recently or soon I'm going to acquire for my Oklahoma license so I can start wrestling up there. And I'm planning on reaching out, man, all as far as I could possibly go if my wallet can hold to it. So.
Well, if you're ever in the Iowa, Illinois area, look us up because we'd love to see you too.
Definitely. I used to work in Pekin.
Okay.
That's not too far from here.
Not too far from us. About an hour and a half. Not far.
Yeah, I used to work on the towboat on the river.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Rika, I want to thank you so very much for coming on. This has been an absolute fun time. I'm glad we were able to get you on finally.
Yes.
And look forward to down the road having you back if you want to come back on and talk wrestling with us.
Whenever, brother, whenever. I've looked forward to this for months, and I really, really appreciate all the people watching. I appreciate you guys for accepting me on your podcast, talking to me about wrestling. I'm a fan before anything, before a gimmick, before a character, all of that. I'm a fan just like anybody else. So we could do this all day, but I thank you guys really for showing off what I got going on, you know.
Absolutely. It has been our pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up this episode of Card Subject to Change. Be sure to tune in this Wednesday when we have a new episode of our secondary show, The Kickout, the final word in pro wrestling. Oh,
1 second.
Rika,
I've got to say this, and I've got to say it. If you want a Rika Wildlee t-shirt, go to ProWrestlingTees.com, official Rika Wildlee. There's 30 different t-shirts on there. I'm just saying. Anyway, just a little plug for my stuff there.
Like a true Barker, getting that point across. I love it. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Check out his pro wrestling tees. Check him out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. He's got a great resume. He's got some great stories that you can see. For my partner today, Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. Like I said, we will see you back for the kickout. This has been Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan, for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We'll see you next time right here on Card Subject to Change.